So based on the, so using the diagram below, draw the effect of a minimum wage being set above the equilibrium wage rate. Label the new quantity of labor demand, the new quantity of labor demand and the new quantity of labor supplied. So first, minimum wage itself. What is minimum wage? Minimum wage is the acceptable wage firms have to pay to the lowest or the least worker based on government regulation. That is minimum wage. And when you talk about equilibrium wage rate is the wages that is agreed between, the wage that is agreed between the demand for labor and the supply of labor. The wage agreed between the demand for labor and supply of labor. So the equilibrium wage rate here is WE. I think you can see it.
Yeah.
So when wage rate is set above the equilibrium wage rate, it has an impact on quantity supply of labor and the quantity demanded of labor, the quantity demanded for labor and the quantity supply of labor. So I wrote, when wage rate is set above the equilibrium wage rate, it is favorable to workers. So the quantity supply of labor would increase, while it becomes a cost to employers, which means the quantity demanded will reduce. And the QS will increase, which means the QS will increase and the QD will reduce. And this can be graphically represented as this. So based on the graph, the quantity demanded for labor would reduce from QE to QD. It will reduce. And the quantity supply of labor would increase because there's an incentive to work. So it will increase from QE to QS. Do you get the point here? Why is it so? Here, firms will not be able to increase the number of workers because it will represent a high cost of wages, which means a high cost of production, reducing their profit. So it will fall because the price is now above this is the price. It's above. So above it means more supply of labor, less demand for labor. Do you get it? So this is the representation. Clear? Any question about that? Okay, we'll move on. So, the next one says, question D, right?
Yeah.
With the reference to the case study, which we're not going to read because it's there already for people to read. Okay. Now they said, with reference to the data above and your knowledge of economics, analyze why Canadian firms may have been struggling to hire the labor they need. First, what is labor? Labor is the physical and mental effort needed in the course of producing goods and services. And the reward for labor is wages done, right? Now, firms in Canada may have been struggling to hire labor they need based on the following reasons. One, the demand for specialists, because here we're talking about computer engineers and web designers. These are special skills. Yes or no? So, the demand for specialist skills such as computer engineering and web designing might be increasing rapidly than the supply, which makes it difficult for firms to hire. That's the first point. The second point I make is that the proportion of the population in Canada taking courses and knowledge on computer engineering and web designing might be lower than the supply of labor. So that means the numbers of people studying or having training on these courses are less. So that means the supply will be less. That's the second point. The third point I make is lack of geographical mobility. There's geographical mobility of labor or geographical occupation, which means the movement of people from one geographical area to another based on job. So Canada is a very large country. Because it is so large, some people who have those skills, they might have the skills, but they find it difficult to move from one area to another. As a result, the supply of labor for such skill might be less in certain area in Canada. Clear? That's what I wrote about it. That's 3 points anyway, which is gone. So go to question E, right?
Yes.
We have the case study about productivity. With reference to the data above and your knowledge of economics, assess the extent to which an increase in education and training is the best way to increase productivity. So I support and oppose it because they said we should assess it. So you have to talk about the benefits and the limitations too. So first, what is productivity itself? Productivity is the measure of a country, an output with input. So I wrote productivity is output as a measurement of input. Clear, right? So education and training brings about improvement in skills and knowledge. So improvement in skills and knowledge will basically increase what you don't know, improves what you don't know, what you used to know. What you used to know, you get more to know about what you don't know. That means it will affect your productivity. So education and training will improve you as an individual, which will reflect in what you are producing. That means output will increase, which means productivity. Clear? So that's about the first thing. Then next one I wrote, education and training brings about job satisfaction. When people are being trained, they are happy. And when they are happy, it brings about job satisfaction. Job satisfaction comes through job enrichment, job enlargement, and job rotation. All these things are entailed in training and education. So people are happy. And when they are happy, they are motivated. Motivation will bring about increasing productivity. Clear? So the third one, some aspect of jobs needs technicality. So these things need technical knowledge. That means we can't get this knowledge without training. So training is important to be able to carry out those functions.
Yeah.
Clear? So that's the importance of training and education. However, some firms might feel reluctant to want to train employees. Why? Because when employees acquire this knowledge and skills, they become attractive to competitors, and they might choose to leave, which becomes a loss for the firms. 2, education and training are beneficial in the long term. Education and training are long-term benefits, not present benefits. As a result, it takes time to make education and training become beneficial, and we need something about now, which education and training might not be able to do. You are investing now for future gain, which might not be good for the business. The third point is that some firms might choose to be capital intensive, because education and training is labor intensive.